Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm and cordial welcome to the 11th Global Peter Drucker Forum. It is an important day for us because we want to celebrate with you. I will come back to this, because when I say celebrate, I should also say when you read the news and when you watch the news, it's very easy to get depressed. But even though the news are so negative, all facts show that we live, after all, in a period of great prosperity. We have made immense progress during the last decades. All data are showing that. In all sectors, be it education, be it health, be it technology. At the same time, when we say we have made huge progress, we all know there is no place for complacency. Since the Second World War, we have seen innovations and really waves of huge innovation, but at the same time, the world is faced today with very serious challenges, with deeply divided societies in many countries. And while this is the case, we should still keep the wider perspective. And the wider perspective is that we went through a period of unprecedented innovation and value creation, like never before. And it was driven by managers and based on this new social technology, which is called management. When I say managers, it's in a broad sense entrepreneurs, company executives, leaders of institutions, and all sorts of organizations. What they have achieved is collective performance from which we all benefit. I personally consider myself as privileged, having lived the past 70 years in a period of relative peace and prosperity. Not all kids today know what this means. And as Peter Drucker observed, this is the basis for society to function, to create the material foundations of our societies. That's a key task that we as managers and leaders are faced with. We contribute to make society work, to make society function. In this sense, managers and leaders have proven their value during the last decades. We have shown what can be achieved, what can be done. Yet, we are at a critical juncture today. Digital technology is providing us with an unprecedented, immense opportunity for new ways of value creation and innovation. And it's putting the practice of management at test. Can it renew itself to leverage these new wealth-creating opportunities, coping with complexity, speed of change, and all the inherent uncertainty that we experience? Our theme, the ecosystems, the power of ecosystems, are a perfect metaphor for this new interconnected and interdependent world. And as we discuss the future of management, we do it as a backdrop, against the backdrop of unbelievable achievements. It's a huge challenge, but we have proven something in the past on which we should base our future endeavors. And I would say we should base it in a positive and in an optimistic spirit. In a sense, it can be done. We can cope with these challenges, but we must be able to renew and to develop the practice of management. We feel privileged to have you all with us, and I would like also to take this opportunity to thank those who have enabled us to be there, our sponsors. You can see, I don't read them all, you will meet them here. These are the top sponsors, and here is the bigger list. The sponsors for the Drucker Forum are, in a way, partners, strategic partners. We don't have sponsorships where companies just try to advertise through the Drucker Forum. Drucker Forum means engagement. So we thank you very much for joining us in this sense and putting skin in the game of this relationship. Let's give a round of applause to our sponsors. And by the way, if somebody feels strongly that they want to be a sponsor for next year, talk to me. We are open. Now, thank you all in this room, but also on the live stream, for being with us and, in a way, celebrating with us. I mentioned the term celebration in the beginning, and I want to reiterate it. Because our great friend, Charles Handy, who cannot be with us this year, but who will be back, I trust, next year, Charles Handy made a statement that I want to use to make this point. He said, the Drucker Forum is a bit like a party, but it's a party with a serious purpose. So let's celebrate a party with a serious purpose. Thank you. I would now ask the chair for this year's conference, Alex Osterwalder, to come on stage. Alex is well known. I mean, he has just been in Thinkers 50 number four in Thinkers 50, a great achievement. He is known for his work in innovation and business model generation. And Alex is also the founder of a company named Strategyzer. And he will be with you. He will be guiding you through the conference during the next 2 days. So Alex, thank you very much for taking on this role.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Let me check. Who of you has been to the Drucker Forum before? Hands up. Because you can see many people coming back. Who of you is here the first time? Okay, wonderful. So we have about 1/4, 3/4. So you know that, for those of you who have been here, it's 2 wonderful days where we can take a step back from our hectic business. Take 2 days, which is a huge investment in these busy times, to reflect and think about our role, not just in business, but also in society. So I have the pleasure to welcome you as the chair. And of course, as a Swiss, one of my main roles is going to be very strict Swiss timekeeping. That's one of the things we do well. But I want to switch first to some housekeeping. If we can go to the slides first. Okay, so a couple of things. Down-to-earth housekeeping. Put your mobile phones on silent, but don't turn them off. Because you have Twitter, you have Instagram, you have Facebook, you have WeChat, you have whatever you can imagine. Share the messages throughout the world. And that goes for the same for the people on the live stream, okay? If we can go to the next slide. You have the Wi-Fi that you can use, and you'll see all of this information is at the bottom as well, so see it throughout the 2 days, just in case. Next slide, please. And what we will do, and we'll practice this in just a second, we're going to use Slido to ask questions during the sessions. Okay, so please use this. Very simple. You just go to the website, and then you'll see the questions. Don't go yet, because we're going to do a little exercise a bit later on. Okay, so Slido for the session. And as you can see at the bottom, we have the hashtag for the Global Peter Drucker Forum. I think that was it for the housekeeping. So I'd like to get us started with thinking. And I can't really think without drawing. So I'll make a very short sketch before I bring the partners on board and we will have a first conversation about the topic of this year, the power of ecosystems. So if we can go to the iPad. Let's see, technology works. Wonderful. So when I started thinking about the topic, I asked myself, well, what is my role in ecosystems? And it starts with us as leaders in a team. What is your role in this small ecosystem of a team? As simple as that. But then, of course, as a leader of an organization, you will have teams that you manage, several teams. And that might first be old-style, more hierarchical organization or ecosystem. And many of you, and as we'll hear with the partners, have gone through a transformation to a more complex ecosystem within your organization, which is actually harder to manage, but you can unleash a lot more power with the people in your team, in your organization. But then, of course, that ecosystem exists in an ecosystem of people around you. We're not just business people, we're not just government people, we're not just not-for-profit people. We live in society. We have families, we have partners, we have friends. So ecosystem within ecosystem. And then, of course, there are several organizations. So you have competitive ecosystems, you have partnership supply chain ecosystems. So it's getting more and more complex. So the thinking doesn't stop. What is my role in this ecosystem? What is your role? So we need to reflect on this. And of course, we then need to move on to the institutional ecosystems within a country, within a planet, a world. And of course, we wouldn't want to forget the ecological ecosystem, a very urgent topic. I remember last year Paul Polman talking about sustainability and how urgent it is. How do we position ourselves within this world of ecosystems? So I hope we can have a conversation about this and think of this complex world and all of the ecosystems that are around us and how we can positively influence them. Because the wonderful thing today with the technology that we have is that we can be actors and not just victims. So it's too easy to say we can't change the world, because we can. And that's the power of ecosystems. So just a little bit of a reflection to get us started. But I want us to switch now to our little tool Slido, if we can go to Slido, to just get us active already today. So normally we should have the poll here now. We tested that. So if we can somehow launch that poll. If you go to slido.com, we can activate the poll again. Let's see, that's the power of technology that we can use or we can fail with. But failure is a good thing. Let's see if we can get this going. Otherwise, we will just move back to our program. Okay, that one failed. Doesn't matter. The power of ecosystems is also to be adaptable. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to move back to the slides, and let me welcome on stage the partners, some of the partners, the most important partners of the forum. If I can ask on stage Ricardo Vargas, Executive Director of Brightline Initiative, Alex Adamopoulos, the Chief Executive of Emergn, and Howard Sublett, the CEO, Chief Product Officer of Scrum Alliance, and please give them a hand. Thank you very much. Your seat. And we're going to start and kick it off with the conversation, just like I had before, a reflection on the power of ecosystems, starting from their personal experience and then moving on to why they as a partner believe this is an important topic and why they're supporting the forum. So Ricardo, get us started with this topic of ecosystems.
Yeah, good morning everyone. Thanks very much, Alex. Also, I just want to thank Richard and Ilse for the partnership. You know, I was trying to figure out which part of my own ecosystem I would start with. But just to tell you, I was very fortunate in life, because I was born in Brazil and I had a life as an entrepreneur, building a whole ecosystem around technology for about 12 years. When I decided to leave to create something new, this company is still, I'm very happy to share that, because it became today a very large ecosystem. So the company we started with 3 people has today, yesterday, 42,000 employees in Brazil, and it's, I think, between the top 3 technology companies providing service for several companies. And then at the same time in 2012, the phone rings and the UN calls me to join an absolutely incredible and different environment with the UN, and living in absolutely 2, I would not say even different ecosystem, but different planets, living in Denmark and working in Afghanistan, South Sudan, in the apex of the ISIS crisis and all of that, trying to deliver. And how do you build the engagement of governments and everything to get really things done? And I need to tell you, if I go back 10 years ago, I was amazed about disruption. I said, it's so fantastic how people can just disrupt business. But life taught me something a little bit different. So I was reading recently, I would say a couple of days ago, our colleagues Michael Jacobites and Martin Reeves' article at MIT Sloan, talking about the 10 myths of ecosystem. And I was reading it, and it's absolutely fantastic article. But then I said, there is one missing piece. And there is an 11th myth that I wrote down, and I want to share with you. It's ecosystems produce results for shareholders. This is, I would say, it's very good. But it does not necessarily build a better society. And this is where I want to talk to you. So Brightline exists as an initiative of the Project Management Institute to bring ideas to life, but not to bring ideas to life just to improve shareholder value. We are talking about building a better society. And I think this is our absolutely key thing. So we are working on that for the past 3 years and trying to say how we can help organizations producing thought leadership to help them to drive and navigate transformation without thinking that people are disposable. You know, because at the end, if you think that, okay, I need to make my company more profitable by dumping 50,000 employees of my company, thinking that they are not part of your ecosystem, let me tell you, they will come back. Like we see in Chile today, like I can tell you from my own home country in Brazil, where I cannot raise my kids at the street. So at the end, everything is far more connected than what we think. So this year, we did really an amazing effort, a very hard effort. We connected with Professor Behan Tabrizi from Stanford that came from Iran and has a very strong personal history, and said how we can propose a framework that allow organizations to transform themselves, putting people at the center of their process, transforming not only their organizations, but also transforming their people. And I want just to show you an absolutely quick video to all of you, talking a little bit more about that effort that we just released. So if you can just play the video for me.
To run a global organization is to be pushed and pulled by forces outside of our control. As leaders, we have a choice. Do we let these forces push us to and fro, changing only to stay afloat? Or do we do the pushing, pushing ourselves and our organizations to become transformative? Transformative organizations that don't just react, they act, charting new courses, evolving capability, and redefining expectations. At Brightline, we understand that great leaders must be energized. It's not enough to have a vision or even a strategy. Great leaders must harness the force of their entire organization, a force that comes from empowering their people, recognizing their vision, encouraging teamwork, and giving them the resources they need to become a force for change, a force for growth. As a global initiative of the Project Management Institute, we bring together leading experts to help unlock the knowledge, networks, and strategies leaders need to truly transform their organizations. Harness the power within your organization. Kickstart your transformation. Visit brightline.org.
Just to wrap up, was just the release of this framework. This framework is available, so you can download on our website. And what is for me the critical piece? Last year I was here and I spoke about one manifesto that we did, that the best way to bridge the gap between ideas and results is to work through people. And we are talking, and Peter Drucker say about that all the time. And we created a quite bold statement, and that I want to leave you with that, is that people act on their own best interest. And sometimes when you say it's good for the society, a lot of people say, and what is in there for me? So I just want to tell you, based on my life at the UN and being Brazilian, living here, all this, is that, look, it's not only good for the society, it's good for you. It's good for your company and your business in the long run. Because if we do not do that, in a couple of years, we'll be together here to discuss other kinds of problems. Because when we exclude people, they are also part of the same boat and the same ecosystem. So I hope that during this conference, we can put this at the center of our discussion and how we can bring a better society. So that's it. Thank you very much, okay?
Thank you, Ricardo.
Thank you.
So, to keep us thinking and interactive and talking to others, because a big part of the forum is that we also start conversations that go deeper, each one of the panelists prepared a quick question. So if we can go back to the iPad, please, that you will discuss in groups of 2 right now for 2 minutes. Okay, so the first question from Ricardo that you will discuss with your seat neighbor, very brief moment of time, 2 minutes, is what is the one thing you are willing to do tomorrow to positively impact the ecosystem around you? So let's get the conversations going. 2 minutes of sharing with your seat neighbor, wonderful opportunity to introduce yourself. Let's go.
Are you good?
How you doing?
I'm good. You know, this is...
Okay. Okay. Let's get back together. Wonderful. Wonderful to hear the noise level and how we're getting the conversations going. Let's get back to our panel. And I'd like to ask Alex Adamopoulos, what ecosystems mean to you personally and to your organization, Emergn?
Thanks, Alex. And as always, it's a privilege to be back and have time with so many colleagues here. It's a great question. It's a question that I've been thinking about since the theme for this year's forum was announced, because it's one of those words that I think we're all familiar with in our vocabulary as we grow up professionally in business. Ecosystem is a term we hear and read about quite often, maybe don't reflect as often on what it means for us as a person or in our work lives. Personally, I would say the word for me has always been synonymous with relationships and the importance of people in your network and in your life that you learn from. So one of the most important things for me that I see in leaders that I admire is that they're teachable Not only that they have humility, but they have teachability. They're people that want to learn, and that they recognize the power of an ecosystem, in this context, relationships that they have in their life, and what those relationships could teach them. And so I think as I reflect on my own journey, also being an immigrant to the United States from Greece, and watching my family try to make a living and what that looked like in the US, you do learn to appreciate not just a hard, strong work ethic, but a smart work ethic. And what I mean by smart work ethic is a work ethic that really takes advantage of the people and the ecosystem of so many different types of organizations and resources you touch to make you a better person, and to make you a person that wants to continuously reflect or give back. And so when I think about that transition to Emergn and what Emergn has been about as an organization, the ethos of the company really was based on one mission, and that was to improve the way people and companies work forever. And when we define that mission for us as an organization, we added the word forever on the back end, not to be a better marketer, but as a way to say that if you're going to be part of an ecosystem, if you're going to be part of change in the lives of others, it has to stick and it has to remain. There really is no reason to be doing the things we do if the outcome isn't to really impact the lives of the people you touch forever. If they continuously fall back to their old ways of thinking and working, really you have to ask yourself honestly, what have I done here? What has been the impact? So one of the things that we learned early and wanted to do as an organization was to take advantage of so many smart people in our network. So we love learning as an organization, and we looked at the industries that we serve and thought, it's not enough just to consult them. You have to teach them how to do this themselves. And so from a learning approach, we developed an education program for the very purpose of teaching people inside companies how to take advantage of their own ecosystems and how to actually embed the things that they needed to do to be more effective in the roles and in the ways that they serve. And one of the ways we developed this approach to education is we went out to our networks globally, and we asked people that we aspire to be like or we admire to work with us in helping shape the content and the approach and the know-how around how we did education, right? Not just how we consulted. And this actually opened up a number of opportunities for us. And what we learned in the process was it's really important, if you're going to be involved in an ecosystem, that you have some sense of vulnerability and that you're willing to give back. And so we've openly shared our content, even our IP, for the purpose of showing the markets that we serve what we're up to, being honest about getting good, fast feedback, and then putting that back into practice in some useful way, and openly sharing it. And I think one of the challenges many organizations have, especially at a management and leadership level, is the willingness to share, is the willingness to put themselves out there and recognize that they need help and that they need to take advantage of all the markets and the resources that we live inside of. The closed-mindedness that exists in some circles, I think, is really what's detrimental to the success or the opportunities before people. So our learning journey has really been predicated on understanding all the areas of our circles that we can take advantage of, and by that phrase I mean really leverage, but also be helpful in return. So when I use words like vulnerability or teachability or humility, all the illities, I think of them as ways to remind us that we're not in this alone. We're talking about some very important topics over the next 2 days. When we go back to our lives next week, it's really important that we think about what can we implement, what can we use, and how can we actually be helpful to the markets that we serve. So this, for me, has been one of the key things about Emergn and Emergn's ethos and Its just whole existence as a business has been to be better. And one of the ways that we're better is we actually give back, and we're open about the things that we do to help people improve the ways that they work. And I think for me, the power of an ecosystem really comes down to how you view other people in your network, and how much you care about them, and how much you understand the value that they bring to you at all levels of your learning and life. And once you have that understanding, it goes a lot further than maybe we even expect.
Thank you, Alex, for this
Thank you.
inspiring talk. Thank you very much. So, you know the drill? You know the stimulating question. So if we can go back to the iPad, Alex prepared an interesting question that goes a bit deeper than what we had before. So we started off thinking about how we can contribute. But now let's think a little bit about how we can create a greater learning culture. So what's the one thing you can do to create a greater learning culture outside your organization and network, across boundaries? So I'd like you to discuss with your seat neighbor. Maybe you turn to the other side so you speak with a new person and get to know them. Maybe you didn't like the person before. Now you have an opportunity. Okay, let's go. 2 minutes. Okay. Okay. Let's get together. Let's get together. I like the noise level. I like the noise level. Stimulating questions. Howard, I want to ask you the same question. So we had a little bit of a conversation about ecosystems, for you personally and for your organization. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I ask if it's okay if I stand up. It feels weird to sit down this whole time. It's a fantastic question, by the way. And I've got to say something awkward. I really love maps. I grew up as a child riding in the back seat of my parents' 67 Plymouth station wagon, driving across the United States, staring at a map, thinking I had some magic power when the road would turn, and in my head I felt like I kind of willed it to happen. Most of you are old enough to remember the days of paper maps. I do remember being really disappointed. You all probably remember being disappointed when we crossed the boundary from one state to the next, and the color of the state didn't change, nor there was not a dotted line between the two states. I kind of expected that to happen. It made me think about old ancient maps, and if you look at maps from the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th centuries, they were all similar in that they were incorrect, but they were the worldview of the time. Whether they were written from a leader's perspective, which they were either written from a king, let's say, or from a pope, but they were the view of the world. They contained everything that was in it. And each century they were different, but yet they were the same in that they had fixed edges. Maps had perfect little boundaries because the leader was the source of all knowledge. The leader was the one that you came to for all the answers. And if the leader knew more, the map would be bigger. But they were fixed until about the 13th or 14th century, and something changed. A map was written that was a little bit different because it not only had what was known from the leader, but it had the vast unknown. It had this area out west that they had no idea was there, and they had the audacity to draw a sea monster. Now I can imagine for centuries people being afraid because they thought the leader knew everything, and all of a sudden some leader said, I don't know everything. But what happened was it spawned this sense of adventure. People got together in cross-functional teams in boats and sailed towards the dark area. They sailed towards the sea monsters, and leaders of countries got together and funded those cross-functional teams and equipped them with the provisions and the money and everything that they needed to go seek the dangerous waters and to go seek what's there, because that's where the opportunity lies. And I say that because I think the world of business is in that moment. The ecosystem of businesses used to be where we had very product-centric businesses with very fixed edges, where a leader knew everything. The leader is the one that distributed the knowledge to the workers down below. Henry Ford was famous for saying, "It's a shame when you need a pair of hands that it comes with a head attached." Today we're in a world that says, I don't really care about the hands, I want the head. We're in a different world, a world of volatility that's changing all the time, but yet so many organizational ecosystems are operating like they have fixed boundaries, and you can't play outside that with leaders at the center that know everything. We at Scrum Alliance, really, we've been here since the beginning of the Agile Manifesto, and we're really big about bringing humanity to the workplace, and it's about empowering those self-organizing teams. We might call them Scrum teams or Agile teams, to actually sail to those moments of adventure. We set kind of a gold standard for what it means to be a trainer in that space, to help companies learn this, and set a gold standard for what it means to be a coach, to help guide people towards building those ecosystems of self-organizing, cross-functional teams. And it's not just kind of a mission, and it's not just what we teach, it's actually what I'm currently living through in this moment. Because we as an organization, we're structured in a very hierarchical way. We had a manager of marketing with a marketing department. We had a manager of IT with an IT department. And about 6 months ago, my partner and I, that's my co-CEO, decided it's time to actually live the values of the organization and do something radically different. At this time, we have no managers in our company. We have no managers. We only have cross-departmental teams, a team of 5 to 7 that exist of IT, of marketing, of education, so forth. Enough people that have the autonomy, the mastery, the purpose to choose what to seek in that dark water, to be the first line with the customers and actually decide what the customer and work with the customer and answer their questions. Because honest to God, if they're waiting on me to come up with all the answers, we're gonna fail as a company. Leadership in our organization is in support of those teams. We see ourselves as support of that ecosystem of cross-functional teams. And I think this is the way companies really should be built in the future, for the now and for the future. This is the only way to overcome the moments when people like Bezos say on a podcast or something that they might get into healthcare insurance and all of a sudden $30 billion is lost in the stock market. How do you adapt to that if you're running a very centralized, hierarchical, Taylorism kind of a model of leadership, that the people doing the work have to wait for somebody else? You have to empower them. So Alex is going to ask you a question a little bit. So what I'm really going to challenge you with is, you all are the leaders of some of the most influential companies today. My heart, our heart, is that you consider moving as far as you physically can to empowering the workers, to bring humanity to the workplace, to empowering those self-organizing teams to make decisions, not just implement your decisions. So he's going to ask you a question about what side of that frame are you on? Are you still operating in this frame that's fixed, that no one can play outside? Are you operating in this map model that has a blurry edge and has a dark area? And I challenge you to move as far as you can to that, and for God's sakes, draw your sea monster. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. So we're going to move to the last question, but I would like you to thank the partners of the forum to kick us off with stimulating thoughts, questions, and of course, the partnership and friendship with the Global Peter Drucker Forum. Thank you very much. We switch? So we can switch to the iPad. We're not going to drop the question. So now you're going to turn around and talk to somebody behind you or in front of you. The question is, that Howard already launched, when you think about your organizational ecosystem, is it more like the maps of the early centuries, or is it a map of exploration with empowered cross-functional teams with a vast open space and a sea monster? Okay, let's get started. Last conversation. before we get started with the panels? Das ist nicht von mir, das ist von mir.